The stars shimmered like dust scattered across the dark sky. In the middle of that endless void drifted the galactic border zone, a forgotten stretch of space where silence was louder than war. No planets, no cities. Only wreckage, patrol drones, and the ghosts of battles long past. Lyra Chen's ship, the Firelight, cruised slowly through the field of dead satellites and broken cruiser parts. She sat in the pilot's chair, her eyes scanning the screen for signs of valuable scrap. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't part of either empire. Lyra was a salvager, independent, quiet, and careful. She had learned to survive in places others feared to enter. She sipped cold tea from a dented metal cup, then leaned closer to the monitor. A blinking dot appeared, an energy signal, faint and old. That wasn't normal. This part of the border had been abandoned for decades. No active ships, no power, nothing but junk. She narrowed her eyes. "What are you?" she muttered. Lyra punched in the coordinates, and the Firelight adjusted course. As the ship moved forward, the signal grew stronger. It led her to an asteroid, big, misshapen, and coated in gray rock. There was nothing strange about it at first glance, but the energy signature pulsed from deep within. Lyra put on her suit, locked her helmet, and grabbed her gear. The moment she stepped out of the airlock, she felt the deep silence of space surround her. No sound, no life, just her breath and the hum of her suit. Using her thrusters, she floated toward the asteroid. As she circled it, she noticed something odd, a smooth line cutting across the rocky surface. It wasn't natural. It was metal, hidden under layers of dust and debris. Her heart raced. She cleared away the dust with a small tool. A door appeared, round, old, and covered in symbols she didn't recognize. She placed her hand on it. To her surprise, the door opened with a soft hiss. Lights flickered on inside, weak but alive. Lyra entered slowly. The hallway beyond was dark and cold. The air smelled stale, like something sealed for centuries. She turned on her helmet light. The walls were smooth and curved. Everything looked ancient but advanced, technology far older than anything she had seen before. She kept walking, deeper into the structure, until she reached what looked like a control room. There was a large chair in the center and a dark screen in front of it. Dust floated in the still air. She touched the control panel lightly, brushing away a layer of time. The screen lit up. A soft voice filled the room. Human presence detected. Reactivating interface. Lyra jumped back. The voice was calm, female, and somehow gentle. "Who are you?" Lyra asked, her voice shaking. "Welcome," the voice said. "I am ARA. This ship has waited a long time." Lyra stared at the glowing screen, heart pounding. She had found something incredible, something lost. A ship buried inside an asteroid. A ship still alive. She didn't know it yet, but this discovery would change the fate of the galaxy. Lyra stood frozen in the middle of the control room, the light from the screen painting her face in a soft blue glow. Her breath echoed in her helmet, steady but tense. She had expected scrap metal, maybe a salvageable engine or two, but not this. Not a talking ship buried in an asteroid. The voice spoke again. Calm, polite. "I am ARA, Advanced Relic Archive. You are the first to enter this vessel in 317 years. Identity scan, not recognized. Please confirm your purpose." "I'm not here to harm anything," Lyra replied. "I'm just a salvager. I was following an energy signal." There was a pause. Then, energy signature was not intended for broadcast. Signal may have decayed and bled into nearby frequencies. "You were here by chance." Lyra lowered her tool. Her heart was still pounding, but the voice didn't sound threatening. It sounded tired, almost patient. "Where is the ship from?" she asked. This vessel, designated Harmony 1, was launched during the unification period. It served as a diplomatic envoy between early interstellar nations before the rise of the Hellion Republic and the Varn Dominion. Lyra blinked. "That's centuries ago. Before the war. Before the borders." "Yes," ARA replied. "This ship carried messages of peace. It recorded histories, languages, treaties. It was lost during a deep space mission when an asteroid collision damaged its navigation systems. Emergency protocols sealed the ship within the asteroid for protection." Lyra stepped closer to the screen. Her fingers brushed the edge of the console. "Are you saying you were a bridge between the people who came before the empires?" "Correct," ARA said. "Both modern governments evolved from the same root civilizations. This information has likely been lost or hidden. Would you like to review historical data?" Lyra hesitated. What she was hearing, what this ship was offering, was bigger than salvage. It was knowledge that could shake everything the two empires believed. They had fought for decades, maybe longer. If people knew they once came from the same origin, would it stop the bloodshed? Or would it make things worse? Still, she nodded. Yes. Show me. The walls of the room shifted. Screens lit up all around her, forming a circle. Images played, simple at first. Ancient star maps. Footage of early space explorers speaking in a language that was now divided into two dialects, Hellion and Varn. Photos of leaders from both lineages shaking hands, signing agreements, and building shared cities on distant planets. Aray continued speaking as the images shifted. This data was meant to be shared across systems to promote unity. When the ship was lost, many of the shared records were lost with it. Conflicts began shortly after. Lyra's eyes widened. So the war might have been started because of the ship's disappearance? It is possible, Aray said. The absence of shared knowledge allowed fear, pride, and power to take root. Lyra backed away slowly and sat on a low step near the control panel. Her mind raced. All her life, she had seen the border as a scar, a line filled with anger and loss. Her parents had died defending a Hellion outpost when she was just a child. She had grown up thinking the Varn were cruel, but maybe they had their own version of pain, their own lost stories. Aray, she said, looking up at the screen, can this ship still send messages? Yes, the AI replied. Transmission systems are intact. However, access to current communication protocols will require data updates. Lyra smiled slightly. I can help with that. My ship can connect you to modern frequencies. There was a soft beep of approval. Accepted. Syncing systems now. She stood, determined. This information needs to be seen. If both sides knew the truth, maybe they'd stop fighting. Aray paused again. Be aware, Lyrichin. Peace is not always welcomed. Those in power may resist truths that weaken their control. I know, Lyra said. But someone has to try. She left the ship briefly and returned to the firelight, linking her system to Aray's main console. The ancient AI downloaded the necessary protocols, then began preparing a data package for transmission. Lyra crafted a message. It was simple. To the Hellion Republic and the Varn Dominion. I found something buried in the border zone. Something that proves we come from the same past. Please listen before another war begins. She attached several pieces of visual data, maps, photos, voice logs, and hit send. The signal traveled in all directions, bouncing through satellite debris and forgotten space stations. As the transmission flew through the stars, Lyra felt both hope and fear settle in her chest. She didn't know who would respond or what they would do with the truth. But the message was out there now, and nothing could take it back. In the silence of space, Lyra's message traveled fast. It passed through broken satellites, bounced off old comm relays, and finally reached the outer edges of both empires. Somewhere deep inside the Hellion Republic, a research station picked it up. And far away, in a high-security control center of the Varn Dominion, it triggered a silent alarm. Lyra didn't know any of this yet. She sat inside the Harmony One's command chamber, watching ARA compile more historical files. The soft blue lights danced across her face as recordings played, leaders from both past nations sitting at long tables, shaking hands, smiling, building bridges that time had erased. Lyra sat in awe. It was like watching a story the galaxy had forgotten. She leaned forward. ARA, how many of these records still exist? 73% of the ship's memory core remains intact, the AI responded. Much of it is untouched, uncorrupted. Can you translate everything into modern Hellion and Varn? Yes. It will take several hours. Lyra nodded. Do it. I want both sides to understand it clearly. She didn't realize that far across the stars, her message had just reached Commander Joran Vex. The Varn Dominion command room was dark and sharp, every surface cold metal, every screen glowing red and gold. Commander Vex stood with arms behind his back, watching the message play again on the central display. He was a tall man with short black hair, streaked with gray. His face was lined and stern. He had been born into war, raised in duty. To him, peace was a fragile thing, easily broken, easily used as a weapon. He had seen it fail too many times. Who is she? He asked. His adjutant responded quickly. Lyrichin. Civilian. Independent salvager. No ties to either government. She sent this from the border zone? Yes, Commander. Near Sector 12K. Very close to the restricted belt. And the data? The officer hesitated. It appears authentic. The ship she found is ancient. The records match early Dominion routes. It includes references to both our ancestors and the Hellion line. Commander Vex's eyes narrowed. If the Helians see this, they'll use it against us. Claim moral ground. Push for border talks. He turned toward the tactical display and stared at the blinking dot, Lyra's location. This message cannot spread, he said firmly. Prepare an intercept team. Stealth class. No open fire unless she resists. I want that ship silenced. Back in the border zone, Lyra sat inside the firelight, eating from a foil packet and checking her ship systems. Everything looked normal. No alerts. No strange signals. But her gut felt tight. Like something was watching. She switched on the radar, just in case. A few minutes passed. Nothing. Then, a flicker. A shadow on the edge of the screen. Very fast. Very small. Lyra leaned closer. That's not scrap. She tapped the screen. The shape moved again faint, like it was hiding. Ares' voice came through her ship's speakers. Unidentified craft approaching. No identification signal. No response to hails. Lyra's breath caught. Varn. Most likely, Ares answered. They received the transmission. They have traced it here. Lyra stood up and grabbed her suit. Lock down the Harmony. If they board, they'll take everything. I will activate internal defenses, Ares replied calmly. Lyra suited up and moved back into the ancient ship. She knew she couldn't outrun the Dominion. Not in her salvager. But maybe she didn't need to run. She stood in the command room and looked around. This place, this piece of history, meant something. If they took it, it might disappear forever. But if she could hold them off, even for a little while, the message might spread far enough that no one could bury it. Ares' lights pulsed gently. A cloaked ship has entered range. It is preparing for boarding. Lyra clenched her fists. Let them come. We're not done yet. Outside, the sleek black hull of a Varn stealth vessel approached the asteroid slowly, silent as a shadow. A team inside suited up, armed, focused, and ready. Back on the ship, Lyra stood tall. She was one salvager, with a dying ship and an old AI. But she had the truth. And she wasn't giving it up without a fight. The lights inside Harmony one dimmed to a deep blue as the ancient ship entered defense mode. Small hums echoed through its halls, old systems waking, scanning, preparing. Lyra stood in the command room, watching symbols flicker across the screen. Ares' voice filled the space, calm but alert. Boarding craft approaching. Estimated contact in 90 seconds. Lyra pulled on her helmet, locking it tight. Her heart pounded in her chest. She wasn't trained for battle. She had no weapons except her ship's emergency tools and the defensive systems ARA could control. But this wasn't about fighting. It was about holding on to something that mattered. How many are on that ship? She asked. 5 life forms. Light armor. Armed. Not standard soldiers, likely an extraction team. Great, she muttered. Fast, quiet, and deadly. The airlock sensors lit up. They've docked, ARA confirmed. Lyra moved quickly. She left the command room and slipped down a narrow hallway toward the docking bay, careful not to make noise. She had sealed all non-essential systems, forcing the intruders to follow a controlled path. They couldn't access Harmony's core or command center without passing through a choke point. ARA spoke softly in her helmet. I suggest disabling corridor lights and venting mild gas to slow movement. It is non-lethal, but may confuse them. Do it, Lyra said. Lights went out, and a soft mist hissed through the vents. Lyra reached a corner and crouched low, peeking around. She saw them. 5 dark figures moved like shadows, silent, organized. Red lights blinked on their shoulders. Their rifles were raised, scanning every direction. Lyra held her breath. The lead figure raised a hand. This is Dominion Commander Unit 4. We know you're here, Lyrichin. You've entered a restricted zone and are harboring unstable technology. Step forward. Lyra didn't answer. Another voice cut in, one she hadn't expected to hear through her comms. Lyrichin, this is Commander Joran Vex. You are in possession of a lost asset belonging to the Dominion. You will surrender the ship and its contents immediately. His voice was calm, but cold. The kind that didn't allow negotiation. Ari whispered, I have traced his signal. He is aboard a command vessel nearby. Outside visual range, but close enough to strike if needed. Lyra moved back toward the command room as quietly as she could. She had to buy time. The data ARA was translating still wasn't finished. The message, the truth, had to go out again, to more channels, deeper ones the empires couldn't block. She reached the console and activated a secondary broadcast. What are you doing? Vex's voice snapped. I'm making sure the truth gets out, Lyra said. You can destroy the ship, but the story won't die with it. You don't understand what you're playing with, he replied. This information will not bring peace. It will cause panic. It will reopen wounds. You're wrong, Lyra said. People need to know. If we come from the same past, maybe we can stop repeating it. RA added, transmission reactivated, sending core historical data to extended Hellion and Varn satellite chains. Vex didn't respond right away. Then he said, you've made your choice. Suddenly, the ship shook. A low rumble echoed through the floor. Missile launch detected, Ares said. External strike incoming. Impact in 25 seconds. Lyra's hands flew across the console. Defensive shield, anything. Shields are weak. This vessel was not built for war. Redirect emergency power, she ordered. The ancient system's word. Lights flickered. Ares core pulsed with energy. Outside the asteroid, a missile streaked toward the buried ship, its path straight and deadly. But just before impact, a burst of energy flared from the asteroid's surface, a shield, flickering, thin, but real. The missile hit. A flash of light. The asteroid shook again, but Harmony 1 held. Inside, Lyra hit the deck, gripping the console. Status, she gasped. Damage minimal. Shield integrity at 32%, Array replied. Another hit will breach the hull. Lyra stood slowly. Her legs were shaking, but her eyes were focused. Then we can't take another hit. The data has been sent, Array said. Multiple relays have confirmed delivery. The message will reach them. The Varn soldiers had frozen. One of them touched their helmet. Commander Vex is calling us back. Lyra watched them through the security feed. They didn't look angry. They looked confused. Maybe even uncertain. They're retreating, Array confirmed. Their boarding vessel is leaving the dock. Lyra collapsed into the chair, breathing hard. She had no idea what would happen next. The message was out there, flying between stars, carried on the backs of satellites and systems. Maybe someone would listen. Maybe someone would care. But for now, the ship was still standing. The truth was still alive. And she was still here to protect it. The stars above the border zone no longer felt quiet. The silence that once stretched across the galaxy was now tense, waiting, watching. The message had spread, and with it came ships. Big ones. Lyrichin stood at the edge of the command platform inside Harmony 1. Through the ancient ship's main viewing window, she saw what she feared most, 2 fleets, one from each empire, now facing each other in a standoff above the asteroid. On the left, the sleek silver arcs of the Hellion Republic. Light cruisers. A science vessel. And one capital ship, tall and sharp like a blade of light. On the right, the dark and angular forms of the Varn Dominion. Heavily armored. No science vessels, only warships. Both sides had received the same message from Lyra, and both had responded. Aray's calm voice echoed through the chamber. We are now within direct sensor range of both fleets. No weapons have been fired. Yet, Lyra said under her breath. Her hands gripped the edge of the console. She hadn't planned this far. Her goal had been simple. Tell the truth. Let others see the ancient connection both empires shared. But now that the truth was out there, she realized something harder. Truth alone was not enough. It had to be defended. Inside the Varn command ship, Commander Joran Vex stood in front of a massive screen. The face of a Hellion admiral stared back at him through a live channel. You received the transmission as well, the Hellion said. I did, Vex replied. It was unauthorized. A leak. Possibly manipulated. The admiral narrowed her eyes. The ship is real. The data is real. We have confirmed it on our end. It changes nothing. It changes everything. They stared at each other. Neither blinked. Then a second voice joined the channel, Lyris. Stop, she said. Please. Just listen to me. Both of you. Back inside Harmony 1, Lyra stood before the communications panel. She had opened a shared channel between both fleets, her voice reaching every captain, every commander, every soldier with ears to hear. You're both here now. You both saw the truth. This ship, this history, it doesn't belong to one side. It belongs to all of us. You've been fighting for decades, thinking you're different, thinking you're enemies. But you're not. She paused, her voice shaking. This ship proves it. We came from the same people. We spoke the same language. We lived on the same worlds. Then something happened. Wars, pride, fear, and we forgot. Silence followed. Lyra glanced at ARA. Play the message, she whispered. ARA's systems responded immediately. The walls lit up. A projection filled the air above the command platform. It was old footage, blurry but clear enough. 2 leaders stood side by side, one from each early nation, signing an agreement on a stone table under a sky full of stars. Their words, though ancient, were translated instantly by ARA into modern Hellion and Varn. Let this vessel carry our promise that unity is stronger than fear, and our future will not be shaped by blood. Lyra turned back to the calm. Those are your ancestors, she said. Yours, mine, all of us. They chose peace. You can, too. On both sides of the border, officers whispered to one another. Some looked uncertain. Others simply watched in silence. Then Commander Vex finally spoke. Lyrichen, he said, his voice low and steady. You risked war to send this message. I risked nothing, she replied. War already exists. I'm trying to stop it. He was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly, he turned to his bridge officers. Power down weapons. Hold position. The words rippled like shockwaves. Across from him, the Hellion admiral raised her hand. Stand down. No fire. Lights on both fleets dimmed. Weapon locks disengaged. The tension in space thinned, just a little. Inside Harmony 1, Lyra finally let out a breath. She leaned against the console, her shoulders trembling. Ara's light pulsed gently beside her. Standoff has ended, Ara reported. Both fleets are in passive mode. No active threats detected. They listened, Lyra whispered. For now, Ara replied. She nodded. That's enough. An hour later, Lyra stood at the entrance of the ship as a small team from each side arrived. Scientists, historians, translators. Not soldiers. They walked slowly, cautiously, like entering a sacred place. No words were needed. Lyra stepped aside and let them through. Harmony 1 would speak for itself now. She looked out at the stars again, the same ones she had floated beneath just days ago, thinking she was alone. But now, the galaxy had changed. And it wasn't finished yet. The halls of Harmony 1 felt different now. They no longer echoed with silence. The ship was alive again, not just with lights and systems, but with voices. Soft conversations in Hellion and Varn, scientists whispering over old data, translators discussing every line of code, historians standing in quiet at the walls filled with forgotten knowledge. Lyrichen walked slowly through the main corridor. She watched them work, Hellion and Varn, side by side. No weapons. No shouting. Only questions, answers, and the shared silence of discovery. For the first time in years, Lyra saw both sides doing something they had never done before. They were listening. Ara's voice followed her softly through the ship. Translation of historical archives is at 88%. Many of the scholars have requested deeper access. They seem curious. Lyra smiled. Curious is good. She entered the command room and looked at the screen where it all began. Her image was still there, her first message, now archived alongside ancient footage and diplomatic recordings. It would remain part of the ship's memory forever. Any updates from the fleets? She asked. Yes, Ara replied. The Hellion Republic and the Varn Dominion have both sent official diplomatic observers. They are planning a joint summit in neutral space. The location has not been chosen, but your name has been included in the proposal. Lyra blinked. Me? Why? You are considered the initial contact, the bridge between history and present. They wish to hear your perspective. She sat down in the command chair, stunned. I didn't expect that. You carried the truth across the void, Ara said. Few do. Lyra looked out through the window. The stars hadn't changed, but her world had. And maybe, if the summit truly happened, the galaxy would follow. Just days ago, she had come to this asteroid looking for scrap. Now she sat inside a ship older than the Empire's, holding knowledge that had been buried for generations. Her fingers ran across the armrest. It still felt unreal. Footsteps echoed behind her. A Hellion scientist entered with a datapad in hand. A Varn translator followed. Lyra, the Hellion said with a polite nod. We've uncovered a new set of logs. Pre-war timelines. They show joint colony efforts, civilian projects, even marriages between the two cultures. The Varn nodded. It's more than political history. It's personal. Families. Friends. Lyra stood. Then share it. Let everyone see it. Let them feel it. They both smiled and returned to their work. Later, as the teams moved deeper into the ship to explore its remaining chambers, Lyra stepped outside. She floated gently in space near the firelight, tethered by a short line. The view was clear, both fleets still hovered nearby, distant but peaceful. A strange calm held the zone between them. A few small ships from each side now patrolled the area together, keeping watch not as enemies, but as protectors of something greater than both their flags. Her comms clicked. Lyra, came Commander Vex's voice. She paused, surprised. You don't usually call. I don't usually speak to civilians, he said. Then, a brief silence. But you're not just a civilian now. She said nothing, waiting. I still believe peace is dangerous, he admitted. But perhaps silence is worse. You forced us to listen. That's something even warships couldn't do. Peace is hard, Lyra said. But truth is harder to ignore once it's seen. He gave a quiet grunt. We will see what comes next. The comms went silent again. She floated for a while longer, staring out into the galaxy. She knew this moment wouldn't last forever. There would be arguments, doubts, and resistance. Some people wouldn't believe. Some wouldn't care. But others, many others, would. The story was already spreading. And that was how change began. With a voice. With a message. With a forgotten ship buried in an asteroid. Brought back to light by someone who simply chose to listen. As she returned to Harmony 1, the ship welcomed her like it always had. Not with fanfare, but with quiet purpose. The data would be protected. The truth would remain. And from this point forward, the galaxy would remember what it had once been, and what it still could be.